Hi, Jeff Saxton here with Eaton Performance Differentials, and we're going to take a few minutes today to talk about what is arguably one of the most recognized and famous brand names in performance differentials, the Detroit Locker. The Detroit Locker is a product that has been around for many, many years, and rightfully so. It brings such performance to the table for so many different types of applications, such as street rods, drag racing, extreme off-roading, and even has been used effectively for many years in something as demanding as a little thing we call NASCAR. I'd take a few minutes to talk about principle of operation on the Detroit Locker, because in my years of training on the different differential products that we offer, the operation of the Detroit Locker is commonly misunderstood. So we'll take a minute today as an opportunity to help clarify that so that you can understand how the Detroit's going to work for you and enhance the performance of your vehicle. Detroit Lockers are properly referred to as what we call speed sensing differentials. And by that we mean they respond to the need for wheel speeds to change depending on the condition of the driving situation. So in an ordinary on-road driving environment, high traction, dry roads for example, a Detroit Locker when driving in a straight line is locked. And you can even get a sense of that here on my cutaway. When I try to turn both axle shafts, notice I cannot turn them independently of one another. When I talk about the term locked axle, what I'm really referring to is a temporary, for you racing enthusiasts, a temporary condition that's equivalent to having a spool in your axle. What that means is that full driveline torque is being delivered to both wheels equally, which means you're going to get effective acceleration with both wheels delivering maximum traction to the road surface. Now when I talk about speed sensing, something interesting happens when we try to negotiate a turn, and again in an on-road situation where I have good traction. In the axle that has the Detroit installed, whatever the outside wheel is during the portion of the turn, it will actually decouple itself from the driveline and freewheel. And I can actually demonstrate that on my cutaway here. So if this were the outside wheel, the wheel that in other words has to spin more rapidly due to being on the outside of that turn, it disconnects from the driveline and allows that wheel to freewheel. The opposite side is still coupled to the driveline and continuing to propel the vehicle forward. Now as you transition from the turn back into straight line driving, the differential will relock and we'll go back into the spool type mode, again maximizing traction. So that makes it great for combination on-road, weekend street to strip, or dedicated drag racing applications. Taking that concept a little bit further, let's talk about off-road for a minute. Big variable there is the assumption that when off-roading, you're on a softer, lower traction surface, which could be, of course, anything from sand to mud to snow to ice and so on. In the case of the Detroit Locker in an off-road environment, those softer surfaces end up creating a different result, which is the fact that the phenomena I just showed about decoupling and freewheeling on high traction surfaces will not take place, which in an off-road environment is exactly what you want because of the added traction demand of those soft surfaces. So the Detroit Locker will remain locked on those soft surfaces and continue to propel the vehicle forward efficiently by driving both wheels in unison. The Detroit Locker is what we refer to as a drop-in technology, which means it's a direct replacement for your factory differential without any modification required to the axle or other components. And it's also, of all of the different products that we offer in our aftermarket high-performance differential portfolio, the highest torque and horsepower handling. You probably got a sense of that when you talk about drag racing and demands of things like NASCAR. So if you're looking to build a street rod or a dedicated drag racing vehicle, or an off-road vehicle that's going to be excessively heavy due to body armor and or the combination of, for example, high gear ratios, the Detroit Locker is an excellent application that's going to be durable enough to give you the performance you're looking for with no problems in the field and will last the life of the vehicle. If you'd like more information on the Detroit Locker, especially maintenance tips, which essentially there are none, as well as application and installation information, check out all the great information at summitracing.com.